I did a dopamine detox for 9 months. Now you see the words dopamine detox thrown around a lot these days with a lot of scientific backlash, but that type of dopamine detox where I cut out all love, joy, and happiness from my life is not what I'm talking about. Last summer, I hit a pretty low point, low enough where I decided something had to change, even if it was gonna take time. I had been playing with the idea of self-improvement for like 6 months before that, and I'd been watching Hamza. I saw Hamza's video on how a dopamine detox utterly changed his life, and so I decided to do it. The mantra of this dopamine detox was a lifestyle where you drastically decrease instant gratification and you drastically increase delayed gratification. So that's what I set out to do. So in this video, I wanna talk to you guys about how exactly I went about that, what actions and concepts you need to take and learn to get the most progress, what you must avoid or else you'll waste a lot of time, and the best lessons I learned along the way that truly changed my life. I had 3 things I wanted to focus on when I went into this dopamine detox. I wanted to seriously improve my mental health, become fully free of the struggle I had with pornography, and to focus on pursuing my goals. So how did I actually do on these missions of mine? I definitely 100% without a question leveled up my mental health. I definitely 100% learned how to and did pursue my goals more. And even though I have some more work to do from fully moving on with my struggle with porn, I've definitely made a lot of progress, and real progress. Not like I just downloaded a blocker on my computer or something. Through this journey, focusing on these 3 goals for this dopamine detox, I think I learned possibly, if not the most important lesson of self-improvement there is, which was what led me to start getting over some of the humps in the early stages of self-improvement and actually start making real progress consistently. How do I make progress starting a new habit or stopping a bad habit? And how do I make progress consistently? There are 2 main huge concepts I learned that are the pillars of self-improvement when it comes to becoming the person you want to become or designing the life you want. The first one is identity. Stopping, starting, or staying consistent literally all comes down to your identity. I know it kind of sounds cheesy, but it's true. Identity is essentially how you see yourself. It's the deep, hidden beliefs you have about who you are, which everything you do stems from. It's pretty cool. See, you do what you do in your life because you see yourself as someone who does that thing. Okay, a better way to put it is you probably aren't a heroin addict. I could show you a picture of heroin. I could put heroin in front of you and you probably wouldn't have any temptation or urges to try. You don't worry constantly about one day I might try heroin, and if you were to have to deny heroin, it would take no mental effort. See, that's where identity is at play. Because you don't see yourself as a heroin addict, you don't struggle with heroin. On the flip side, how you see yourself is why you do what you do. Okay. Something I used to struggle with is frankly just feeling lonely, seeing myself as lonely. And the cause of the cycle of sitting alone and isolating myself and not putting myself in social situations, it was because I saw myself as lonely. This was also a big player when it came to my struggle with porn. I saw myself as lonely, not just alone, but as this mental image you create when you hear the word lonely. I saw myself as that. And I'm never going to surpass what I see myself to be. I'm never gonna surpass my own self-defined limits. Finally, dang it, I wanted to have a rubber band here. Hamza uses this example a lot when he talks about identity, is that your identity is like a rubber band. And doing the good habits or stopping the bad habits feels like you're pulling on the rubber band, but every single time the rubber band snaps back. Every single time you snap back to this state that you presumably don't like. You're watching this video. Whenever you try to do a good habit or stop a bad habit, it kind of feels like you're fighting upstream, right? The problem isn't that you're doing a good habit or trying to stop a bad habit. It's that you still see yourself as a person who snaps back to the thing. You need to change your baseline, who you are and who you see yourself to be. You need to change your identity. Now, I already have a full video on identity. It's gonna be the first link in the description below. It's just part 1, so stay on the lookout for part 2 because that's gonna come. If you want a little bit more of an in-depth video about identity and how to refine and reshape your identity, go watch that video after this video is done. I think it's one of my better videos. Okay, so before I get into concept 2, like the big, huge main concept, I wanna talk about one of the biggest problems I face. And maybe, just maybe, it'll save you a little bit of time. One trap that I fell into is that I tracked everything. I guess this would be a good time to tell you the rules of this dopamine detox. There were 4 main guidelines that I followed, or actions that I did, that kind of made this dopamine detox what it is. You know, when you learn something and it's like liquid gold and it's just what you needed to hear, it fills in all the gaps, but then you forget. And not only did you forget what you heard, but you only have this vague idea of where you heard it from, so you can't even go back and find it. And then eventually, sometime down the road, you're doing something and you're like, that's what it was. I don't have that problem anymore. The first thing I did was writing a future letter. At the end of each week, I would write a future letter to my future self. And it would be a collection of all of the best lessons I learned throughout that week. Look at this little guy. This I started to use towards the last month of my dopamine detox, and it's something I usually carry around, and it's just quick notes. I could take notes in my iPhone. I didn't come up with this, but it's better to write it on paper because those creative ideas fleet with any distraction. So if you do it on your iPhone and you get like a notification, you like respond to a message and then you're like, shoot, what was the idea I was about to write down? Plus, you're not going through your phone and looking through the notes app. It's not happening. I do go through this to find ideas. The second thing I did are week reviews. Along with the future letters at the end of each week, I would write a week review and I ask myself these 4 questions. How much progress did I make towards my goals? How can I increase that? How much did I overindulge in instant gratification? And how can I decrease that? Just a good thing to get your mindset ready, and I wish I took this more seriously. Hear me, if you do, you won't regret it. This next one is a game changer. I've found throughout this whole time that having the ability to keep the most important things at the forefront of your mind is like a superpower, because you can be really focused and then get really obsessed with something that just isn't bad, but then you lose track of like your identity, your purpose, and you kind of lose track of these important things. This next one helps with that. Huge, huge, huge. The third one is a habit tracker. Now, throughout my dopamine detox, I had a habit tracker with 6 of the most S-tier habits on them, and then some other habits shifted because it's a lifestyle. Stuff is gonna change. The S-tier habits, and I'm telling you, these are like life-changing, game-changer habits, is meditation, working out, tracking my macros and calories, reading the Bible, journaling, and meditating. I didn't really get into all of these at the beginning, but towards the end, like I started to meditate more. I started to take tracking my macros more seriously. Huge. I also added learning halfway through. Learning, like reading a book or applying a skill or taking notes on a video outside of school, and filming, because I want to film every day. I want to practice. I want to document it. That one I'm really bad at. The idea is you just have the habits. If you do it, you check it off. If you don't, you cross it off, and you have a visual representation, which is really nice because even if I mess up, even if I relapse, I can still look at the day and be like, okay, if each of these things made me just 1% better, I'm at least a little bit better off at the end of the day than I was at the beginning. Finally, this is where I got into trap number 1. I tracked everything religiously. I tracked how much time I spent on instant gratification and how many times I relapsed per month on a spreadsheet, because I'm like that. Now, I might talk about this more in depth in a later video, or later in this video, but the trap I fell into was tracking just to track. The idea was, at the beginning of the dopamine detox, I gave myself 3 hours a day of instant gratification. Throughout the dopamine detox, I lowered that time, so you can see I have it on my phone. I just set a timer, and whenever I watch YouTube, I just click the timer. When the timer runs out, the idea was that I'd stop. But I got in this really bad habit of letting the timer run out and still going. And that defeats the point of tracking the time. And I still fall into this a lot. Tracking is super helpful. Alex Hormozy, Rob Dyrdek, Chris Williamson, all of these people have talked about like tracking everything and projecting and predicting. Tracking is huge. If when you track, you actually change your actions based on the data. I just tracked data. That didn't change anything. I did this with my habit tracker too. This is a little off script, but like at the beginning, I would not really care if I completed a habit. I just felt productive because I was using a habit tracker. That's not the point. And speaking of, that's actually trap number 2. My mom hates this term, but mental masturbation. This is something that I feel like everyone struggles with, and they don't really know what it is until you explain it to them. It's when to procrastinate doing something that's actually productive, you do something that feels productive. So you have an essay due tomorrow, but instead of writing, you clean your room. This is so bad. Dr. K on Healthy Gamer GG has an incredible video about boredom and how to focus, and like that teaches you a lot about why this happens. But just realizing that that's what's happening was a big thing for me in helping me stop. You're like, oh, okay. I'm actually procrastinating. Cleaning my room isn't productive if I have a list of things that I actually need to get done, and I'm just using cleaning my room as a procrastination outlet. Guess what I got? Haha, I got a car. You know, by extension, that means I got my license, but we're not gonna show you that. Oh my gosh, this is weird. We're gonna go somewhere, but before we go, I wanna tell you about the second biggest, huge main concept, the biggest pillar when it comes to kind of making progress. Actually, we're gonna talk outside because there's no good lighting in this car. Okay, so the second huge concept I wanna talk to you guys about is purpose. Hamza has an incredible video about this, so I definitely go recommend you watch it. But purpose is essentially your biggest goal or the chapter of your life you're in at the moment. It goes deeper than that, but that's like a really surface level explanation. I'm gonna make another full in-depth video about this, so stay on the lookout for that. Purpose is one of those things that I kept over and over hearing about in my dopamine detox journey, but I kept ignoring over and over. Like, all roads lead back to purpose and identity. But I kept hearing about purpose, kept ignoring it. Eventually, just recently started to do like more of a deep dive into it and realized it's one of those things that explains everything. Once you do a little bit of research into it, light bulbs will start turning on, switches will start being clicked. Things will start to make sense, okay? But the point I wanna make is, as is said in a lot of self-improvement circles, 100% of your day should be productive and align with your purpose. I wrote this on the whiteboard you see in my videos, like in back of me, and like my family members and my friends, my girlfriend, all look at it a little bit skeptical, and they're like, you should still have fun and you should still rest too, though. That is productive though. Like, if I ever watched a show or a movie with my family, I wouldn't track it on the instant gratification timer because that would imply that I'm trying to cut back on that. Family time and time with my friends and girlfriend and my family is what colors my life. That's productive for the most part. Rest is productive. Sleep is productive. Eating is productive. Reading is productive. So with that in mind and not having that stupid Sigma grind set idea where 100% of your day should be grinding at the same task all day long. No, but 100% of your day should be productive. You shouldn't be wasting any of your day. And now some people might say you need time to decompress, and I hate that term and I completely disagree. The word decompress actually makes me so angry. Think about it. When in your life have you felt better about yourself and your circumstances and you felt just more at peace after doing something mindless, mindlessly consuming content, what we call decompressing? Such a stupid thing to be pushing. Exclude the times when you're with your girlfriend or boyfriend or with your family or your friends. When have you genuinely felt better after watching a TV show? Just alone, by yourself, just eating junk food, watching a TV show. When have you woken up from that nap halfway through the movie and been like, oh yeah, I'm actually feeling better than I was before this? There's an ant on my... You're not decompressing, you're prolonging pain. Never, not once, has doing something mindless helped. You don't feel worthless because you were productive all day and now you're exhausted. You feel worthless because you're not creating worth. I made a whole video on this and I'll link it down below. Yeah, you feel worthless because you're not creating worth. Never, not once, has doing something mindless been the best move on the chessboard. It's so vital that 100% of your day is doing something productive, that you're not wasting any time. That doesn't mean you're not resting, that doesn't mean you're not spending time with friends and family, but 100% of your day has to be productive. It's so vital. Plan your day so that it's the best day you can make it according to your standard, you know, with the responsibilities you have to do. That leaves you off a little bit better at the end of the day than you were at the beginning. Not hard stuff. Bro, everywhere I try to film, this is the lighting. We're going inside and then we're gonna head out. I played around a long time with to-do lists. I started off with 8 essentials. I learned that from a Peter McKinnon video. Then I went to-do list, back to 8 essentials for a little while. Eventually, I went to just essentials. Flip-flopped between the two. Eventually, I started writing actionable steps lists. See, to-do lists are for lazy people. To-do lists usually end up in a pit of counterfeit activities that just distract you from what you actually need to do. I started writing actionable steps list, which everything on that list gets me closer to the 3 goals I had set for this year, to my purpose, or it left me better off at the end of the day than it did at the beginning. None of these tasks that make me feel productive but that aren't productive, and I made sure to be intentional as I wrote them every time. Super good. They work. It's energizing to be purposeful, and it feels so good when you actually know that you're getting real progress done. When you do these things that are like counterfeit productivity, you know that they're not really what you need to be doing. You don't feel great when you're done them. Still restless. It feels good when you check off the list and you're like, each one of these things are measurably making my life better. Okay. We're gonna wrap up the video soon because I could talk all day about these things that I learned, and I'm gonna make many more videos about them. But before we wrap up, I wanna tell you something that's so important, one of the biggest realizations I had very early on, and I'm very grateful I did. And that realization was how important mental health is. I know, everyone just got way more bored. Everyone who's probably not gonna make any progress just clicked off the video. I don't really care. I feel like I need to put this in this video just really quickly. I still have a lot of room to grow in this area, but I'm so grateful that it was one of the core things that I wanted to focus on this dopamine detox, and I set aside time to do that because it was infinitely valuable. The problem is you don't know how important mental health is until you improve yours. I can tell you all day about why you need to be more grateful and feel better and you can be more at peace, but you're not gonna understand why it's so important until you are at peace, you are more grateful. I could say a bajillion studies, but just to give you one tool that I think would really help and that has been proven to really help is gratitude. Between gratitude journaling, gratitude texting, or just taking a moment in the moment you are in, just take a step back and savor what's happening, savor the moment. All of those things, all of them have been proven to like really work, really help you. Please. Just practice being grateful. Especially with the self-improvement movement, life can move so quickly, you forget to take a moment to savor the moment. And at the end, you will have forsake the very feeling you started doing self-improvement to achieve. Wait, I'm gonna read it off the script because I wrote it better than I say it. Sometimes we get into a bad habit of sacrificing the freeness and good mental health that is the root of what we want in life for progress in the very thing we are using to get it. That's why mental health is so important. The end goal is good mental health. Don't sacrifice that for making progress in the things you are using to get that. I just saw a Corvette. I want a Corvette. So I was hoping that the sun would be out and that I could show you sunset, but there's no sun. I want to leave you with this. Through this entire 9-month process that is still continuing and will forever continue throughout my life, I've pretty much learned one thing. Progress can be made. Now you might say like, duh, and you might not be able to fully grasp what I mean when I say progress can be made, because it's something you kind of have to experience before you know what it means. Your problems can actually be fixed. The chains you have around you can actually be loosened and just torn off. You can have more of the good and less of the bad in your life. It took probably 7 to 8 months before I started to see a shred of progress at all. When I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. You can't unlearn the cheat code. Now that I know that, I can never go back. If I ever try to go back to this life of complacency, I can see and I can remember and feel what it was like to have made progress and be like, oh shoot, I know I can become the man I want to become. And that realization alone makes it all worth it. Now I understand that I don't have to point the finger. I don't have to give the authority in my life to anyone else. You probably won't know or be able to know what I mean if you haven't experienced it. But if you need an extra push in your life, I want to tell you from experience, you can make progress. A better life is possible, and it's out there waiting for you. Plus, my favorite piece of advice is the time is gonna pass anyways. I talked about that last video and how surreal it was to realize that in my real life. You actually do become the future you, whether you like that or not. But you get to choose if you want to have a better life later on. It might suck a little while, it will suck for a little while, but one of the other best phrases that I heard was that if you think the price of success is too high, wait until you get the bill from regret.
Listening to birds cry, I've been viewing from a bird's eye. That's why I always keep my third eye open. I'm focused. If it's real, you know it's gonna come back. This that season, but there's no comeback. If you let go, then please don't run back. Cause if it ain't love, then we don't want that.
Wait, please be on. Okay. Okay, so for those really committed folks, or the folks that were just too far away from the computer to click away when the video ended, I want to quickly give you guys 4 extra like tips of like golden nuggets that I learned if you want to try this dopamine detox lifestyle where essentially you're just trying to better yourself. I can guarantee if you do, you will learn more than you ever have in your life, that your future self will be grateful, and that you actually will realize you have a chance to drastically change the direction your life is going in. So I have a script here. I'm gonna loosely read off of it. Quickly, here are the 4 golden nuggets of knowledge that were really helpful for me. Read more. It sounds boring and dumb, I know, but almost every one of my week reviews was basically me just telling myself to read more. They all pretty much went like this. I could have made more progress towards my goals, but instead I was distracted. The way I could have fixed it was with reading, because it helps you move towards your goals and it's a healthy way to spend your time. That was like every week. I promise you, you won't regret it. Just do it. The second one is bad habits compound, and this was really interesting for me. When I look at the spreadsheet I made of the time where I tracked my relapses and tracked my instant gratification time spent, almost all of the time, the percentage of how many times I relapsed was correlated to the percentage of how much time I spent more than 3 hours of instant gratification on. I thought that was pretty weird. Same thing with any time I missed a cold shower, or any time I would eat really bad, I would also tend to waste a lot of time. There is this term I heard about called the binge fallacy, where essentially you screwed up once, so you're like, well, might as well screw up the rest of the day because, you know, I'm on day 0 of screwing up. This kind of idea that a day is lost, that has and still does mess me up. The third is focus on high leverage activities. Think about it. There are millionaires and billionaires, right? The person who earned $1 billion probably didn't work 100 times more than the person who earned $10 million. There just aren't enough hours in the day, but they still got ahead. And you have to ask, like, how did they do that? Because they're definitely not working 100 times more. It's because what they're doing with their time has more leverage. It's worth more. They get a higher output for the same input. Fourth, and this one's like way more practical, is avoid digital stimulation of any kind right after you wake up. I had this really bad habit where I would wake up and I would check my phone and I would scroll a little bit, and then I would just sit on my bed and like bow my head in my hands and like kind of fall asleep for 10 minutes. And then I would start my day. And every single time, 100% of the time without fail, the days where I got up and got on my phone more than just like turning off my alarm or something and like scroll, you start off the day bad. And that's so bad. Oh my gosh, it's so nice to even just think about this. It was one of the worst habits I had. It just sucks to start your day off bad because everything else is like hit too. And it feels good to realize that that's actually another place where I made progress and I just don't do that anymore. Okay. I'm not gonna say any more. As I'm scripting this video, I'm realizing just how long it's gonna be, and y'all have a life too. So I'm gonna let you go. I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, have the bestest of days, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye guys.